poor people have ironically been ignored by policies aimed at increasing their access to energy. In its 2016 Poor People's Energy Outlook, Practical Action reports that while poorest segments within communities have been given new technologies, these fell short of their needs. The report studied Bangladesh, Kenya and Togo and noticed a similar trend where energy planning took place far from those without energy access. Now, Kenya, for instance, has some of the most vibrant cooking stoves and solar markets on the continent and good renewable energy natural resources. But uptake has been slow due to costs. Similarly, while the country has recently accelerated rural electrification programs, mini-grids or standalone solutions could have been more cost-effective. Now we're joined in the studio by Jekonaya Kitala, the regional manager and head of the energy program at A Practical Action, who of course are the authors of this report. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Uche.
Now, studies have found that energy poverty is much worse for the poor than even climate change. So based on your findings, what are you saying are the right energy solutions for the poor?
Thank you, Uche. Energy poverty is indeed a development crisis that is affecting Africa and other developing countries. In short, we are talking about the masses of people who do not have access to modern energy services. And this is basically looking at energy services for lighting and cooking. And so in this edition of the Poor People's Energy Outlook, what we are saying is that there are opportunities to reach the unreached with more appropriate energy services. And by appropriate, we basically mean energy services that are affordable to them, that are accessible, that are convenient to use, and that are basically suited to their needs. Of course, within that, we could have electricity. We also have cooking solutions, but they need to be adapted to the needs of especially the people who are living at the bottom of the economic ladder. These are the people who have tended to be ignored many times by policymakers, and we are saying that there are solutions that are suited for that segment of the population to be able to get them out of energy poverty.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you talk about solutions, your report seems to say that energy access is slightly different from electricity access. Now, for governments such as Kenya's, who have been very aggressive when it comes to rural electrification, are you saying that these governments have been wasting their time with these electrification projects?
Absolutely no. What we are saying is that many a times electricity access tends to be confused with energy access.
Right.
And in fact, looking at Kenya, we laud the government effort towards improving access to electricity. In fact, the government has just completed the process of developing what is called the Sustainable Energy for All Action Plan and Investment Prospectus. And this is basically the roadmap through which the government hopes to help the country achieve universal energy access by 2030. So within that, we have electricity. But basically what we are saying is that there is a need for a more holistic approach that looks at lighting, which could be electricity, but also other needs, like especially cooking. We are saying that there is need to prioritize cooking, because talking about energy poverty, we are seeing, for example, in Kenya, almost 70% of the population relying on biomass, that is wood and charcoal for cooking. And we know that this has negative consequences on their health, on the environment, and the economy. So we are saying there is need for solutions that encompass the entire energy needs of households and communities, not just lighting. So for example, we are talking about clean cooking for households. When it comes to the community level, we are saying, again, there are energy needs at the community level. For example, public institutions, and we have seen a lot of efforts by the government towards electrification of schools and health facilities. That is good. There is also, on the community side, energy for productive use. We cannot eradicate poverty unless we are able to power even the rural economies. And that's why we are saying there is need for energy solutions that are also looking at communities, productive use, and also households.
And you talk about looking at solutions from the bottom up, which of course will require different models of financing. Give us some insight into some of these models of financing, because that's Africa's greatest challenge when it comes to such projects.
Absolutely. Access to financing is a key barrier to universal energy access. And the reason is largely that access to clean energy often calls for a substantial upfront investment. If you look at typical households in Kenya, they are spending like, let's say, 50 shillings on kerosene every day. And so you have to look at a model that would enable to convert that expenditure to be able to enable a household to access clean energy. This could be electricity, this could be for cooking. And so within this, we have, for example, we've heard of the government program on that is aimed at bringing down the cost of connection to the grid.
Right.
It's called Umeme Pamoja. That's one. But there are also other similar schemes, especially looking at other non-electricity energy services. For example, we have what we call the pay-as-you-go schemes that are enabling people to acquire like solar lamps and use the little money that they were using on kerosene every day to pay for solar over a long period of time, and ultimately a family ends up owning a household.
So Africa has made a little progress in that area.
Yes, there is quite some progress, but again, still a bit of ground to be covered.
Yeah, well, many thanks for joining us and giving us those insights. Of course, Jekonaya Kitala, he's a regional manager at Practical Action Solutions.